Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-filled gush for The Lives of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. As I said, this video will have spoilers in it, so if you've not read this book, go ahead and check out my spoiler-free review, which I will link on the screen. Now, I'm actually going to try to make this gush short, because this is a very long book, and I could gush about a lot of things within it, but ultimately, you guys all know how amazing and beautiful this story is, and how much I enjoyed it, and how much I enjoyed how everything was woven together. That was my biggest love for the book, was that things were woven together so wonderfully. I loved all of their training scenes, I loved Chains, I loved Jean, I loved everybody in the gang, and I wish we could have seen even more of them, honestly. Like, I am a little curious as if we're going to see more of Chains in the future books. I know that he has passed away, but I'm wondering if in the future books he is going to make appearances in more flashbacks. Don't tell me. I don't want any leading comments in the comments about anything. Like, I don't want to be spoiled for anything. But I'm hoping that in the rest of the books we still do get flashbacks, because I loved the flashbacks in here and how they were tied to the present story, and I was always left wondering, like, after a flashback happened, like, okay, how is that going to be relevant to what's happening now? And it almost felt like it was a hint at times, and it was at times, but I was always left trying to figure it out. I never did, obviously. I really loved the flashback element, so I hope we get to see more of that in the future. I hope we get to see more of the characters that have passed away, like Bug and the twins and Chains and stuff. Like, I love those characters, and I was really surprised for how much I loved Chains, especially because you don't get to see really a ton of him, obviously. Like, he's passed away in the future, but he was really tied in so well, and how Locke would reference Chains and how Chains took care of them and raised them, and how Locke felt like he failed them, especially towards the end, and how he failed Chains because Chains kept them safe for so long. And that just spoke to me. Like, Chains as a father figure is amazing to me. I understand that he's not raising the kids to be like the best people necessarily, but I love him as just this wonderful thief character who's so smart and kind of passing on his legacy to these other people. And I love Chains, and I love all of them in the group, honestly. I wasn't really sure about some of them at first. Like, I wasn't sure how to feel about Bug, because typically speaking I don't like child characters a lot of times, especially when they're running with adults. But man, when he went out, and I was not expecting him to die, and I was like, okay, the twins I kind of see, because I can see how throughout the story they weren't necessarily main focal points, but I felt like Bug was a main part of the story and not expendable. Not that the twins were either, because I love them too, but when he died I was like, oh my god. It just reminded me of Les Mis, the movie, and the play obviously, but I've seen the movie, and the little boy, that's who I pictured as Bug. So when he died, I pictured the little boy dying, and that it was a little too much. I was very emotionally devastated by that, and I did not expect to cry in this book, and I definitely did, because I was just so impacted by their friendships and by the situations they were in, and just how, like, towards the middle to the end of the book, they really started to get in trouble, and you could kind of feel like the noose tightening around their neck, and I was like, I need everyone to be fine, and I don't know what's going to happen, because I don't trust this story to make sure everyone's fine. They're not going to be, and the way that they got out of everything was crazy. And I love how, like I said, things were hinted at in the past for the stuff that was happening in the present, and how Locke figured everything out, and he's so smart, and I love that he's not a fighter character, that they definitely depict him as, he's smart, but he's not a fighter, and he's not necessarily handsome either. Like, he's a normal guy, that's how he blends in, that's why he's so good at what he does, because he's not dashing and handsome. He's charming, he's extremely charming, very charismatic, but I like how Scott Lynch made him not a fighter and not super hot, just a normal person who's really smart. So like I said, I adored the friendships in here and the character relationships. I really loved Jean and Locke as a friendship. I was also not expecting that at all. Like, I wasn't sure about Jean at the beginning, and then as we learned more about him in his past and how he was kind of turned into a thief kind of from the merchant background, and then became a fighter and had this rage and was fighting in, like, the glass garden, which was amazing. And their friendship is so important to me. Like, they want to protect each other so much, and they get offended if the other one tries to protect them. Like, when Locke was like, Jean, you just need to leave and go away and leave me, and he's like, how dare you ever say something like that to me? Like, it was so, oh my god. And at the end, when Locke was, like, basically dying, like, they all are always constantly almost dying, and when Locke was dying, and Jean made, like, a baby cradle out of, like, a coat or blanket or something to carry Locke's broken body back to the doctor, like, I can't. I love their friendship, and I just don't feel like we see enough friendships in books in general, and this iconic, honestly. Like, they're the friendship that I now aspire all of my friendships to be like in books, because they're top notch. They're amazing. And just the fact that they are so emotional with each other, like everybody in the book was really good about showing their emotions and like crying. Like both Jean and Locke, and I think even the other characters, but I remember specifically Jean and Locke, cried a lot. Like things were happening and they were upset and they were letting people down in their own minds and they were failing and were dying and they cried. Like, and you just don't feel like you see that a lot either, especially with like male characters just to be like hyper masculine and they're tough and they're thieves and they're... No, they're allowed to be people and they are emotional and they cried, and I really loved that they were allowed to feel their emotions and they weren't always one step ahead of everybody. Like there were times when they had to stop and deal with their emotions, and I really loved that element. I'm also really looking forward to seeing Sabatha. I've heard from people who've read the series that some people are not the hugest fan of her, but she has intrigued me since Locke first mentioned her, like this long lost angsty love, and how he still loves her and he's mad at her and he like won't toast to her wherever she is, and they have this really tumultuous relationship. And you guys know how I feel about tumultuous relationships in general, and I have a lot of feelings about that and where that's going to go and who she's going to be as a character, because I said in my review that my only little complaint was that we didn't get a main female character. We got obviously a lot of like side characters, like the spider and like some of the wives and the shark fighter girls whose names I'm forgetting right now. We got a lot of female side characters that were amazing, but I really want to see a main female character, and I think in the future of the series, Sabatha is going to be that person. So I'm looking forward to seeing her. I think she's going to be a rather unlikable character, but I love unlikable characters. So I'm looking forward to seeing her. Obviously, I really loved this book. I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. I know that the second book is more of like a pirate focus, which just speaks to my every being. So I'm really looking forward to the rest of it. I'm interested to see how all this is going to carry forward, how some of the things and the events of this book, how they're going to affect the rest of the books. Because even though they're leaving this particular place behind, I'm sure they're not going to leave it behind forever. It's going to come back around, and a lot of things that happened and that they set in motion are going to be affecting the rest of the series. Even though I know you can read each book kind of, not separately because they all do connect, but that each book kind of follows a different story, different heist, different thing. But I'm looking forward to how things kind of roll over and what's going to happen. And yeah, I love this book, and I'm going to love the rest of the series. I cannot wait. I'm going to be spacing the books out because I know that Scott Lynch is still writing the series and that he does take a while between books for good reason, but I just don't want to catch up and be like left for like a long time. I think the next book is supposed to come out this year, maybe next year, early next year. I think we at least have a cover. So I'll probably end up reading them all like this year, but I'm going to try to space them out because I don't want to be left like waiting at the end. And yes, I absolutely love this series, and obviously, because you're here on a GUSH, 5 out of 5 stars. So comment down below and let me know what you thought of The Lies of Locke Lamora. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!